So, hello everyone.
Hi, good morning.
Morning. Morning. So, have you all had your breakfast?
Yes, we did.
Are you all comfortable in the seating?
Yes.
And you want extra water bottles, anything?
No, we are fine so far.
I got two already.
Okay, so you have two. How about the sweets? I see they put a lot of sweets on the plate. Okay, good. You can eat the sweets for going through our training for today, which is the ISO 14001 2015 Awareness Training by my company, that is Green Earth Management Consultancy. So we are having it today, 29th November 2024, and your trainer is, my name is Parindra Lim, and I'll be your trainer for today. Okay? So, my name, of course, once again, Parindra Lim. I am a trainer and a consultant and auditor as well. So I will assume the role of a trainer today. I have a professional training in TTT, which is for certification for training, and I'm also a trained OSH coordinator, right? So I have for my educational background, I have a degree in electrical and electronic engineering in the University Technology of Petronas. Okay, you can also refer to that as UTP in Toronto, says Canada. And as for my working experience, I started out as a trainer engineer in Coherent, Malaysia, and then I moved on to being an engineer in FL Smith in Vietnam. So altogether, alongside that, I also have my 2 years in training and consultancy. And in that process, I also became an auditor for the 3 ISO systems, which is ISO 9001 2015, that is quality, ISO 14001 2015, which is the environment management system that we're conducting today, and last but not least, ISO 45001 2018, that is occupational health and safety, short for OSH.
You were in the UTP roughly when?
Roughly, I joined UTP when I was in July 2017 in foundation.
17, okay, because my son also studied there. Oh, he's senior. He finished in 22.
Finished in 2020.
4 years medical. So I think yeah, you are the senior.
I would have interacted with him because we had some interactions with some juniors for first time meeting them. So, okay, we'll get back to that soon. Alright, so any doubts on the qualifications?
No, we are good.
You're good, huh? Okay, alright. Okay, so for some ground rules, put your headphones on silent mode or vibrate mode if you're expecting any calls or you want to attend your business events. And trainees are required to attend this session fully, so you could actually understand what is the ISO 14001 all about. So we also have you need to participate in the pre-training and the post-training evaluation. What is this about? I will later guide you through that. And also feel free to express your opinions, and if you have any questions, please ask them as well. Okay? We are all together here learning. Okay? So we also refrain from any subjects related to 3R. Okay? So I believe all of you know what the 3R is.
Yeah, race, religion, and what's the other? Race?
Oil.
Huh?
Oil.
Royal.
Race, religion, and role.
Royal.
Alright, so I believe that all of you will obey this rules. No doubt. Okay. So what is the learning outcome of this training? By the end of this training, participants will understand the key principle structure and requirements of the EMS standard by passing a written assessment with at least 80% accuracy. So I can see all of you here, you are all professionals. I believe that you'll pass this in the end. Okay? So you also recognize your roles in supporting the organization's environmental objectives and also complying with the legal requirements that are connected to the EMS. And also you will identify ways to contribute to certain environmental elements such as waste reduction, energy efficiency, and sustainable practices in your daily work in your organization. Alright? So, how is the training going to be like? So this target audience, I just want to double check here that I'm dealing here with managers, supervisors, and also members of the EHS task force.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. So this training will consist of our lectures. We'll go through the slides and learn about the EMS in the notes, and that will also be constituted to a PowerPoint presentation, and also there'll be a quiz, which is the pre and post evaluation. And now, that being said, the evaluation method will also be through those quiz, or pre-training and post-training evaluation, and Q&A session. Okay, so have to participate.
Alright.
So our medium can be in English, or kita boleh buat dalam bahasa Melayu. So whichever language you're comfortable. Okay, is it okay we do it in English also? Or you also want some
English is fine.
English is fine, yes.
Punjabi also can lah.
Punjabi. Maybe in the future I'll practice the language. Okay. So mostly done by English, but if you want some word for certain animals, we can include some EMS, depending on the audience. Okay, now we get down to the course timetable. So from 9 to 9:15, we have done a welcome speech and introduction for 15 minutes, and that will also include an ice-breaking session. Don't worry, it's nothing too extreme, just something short and sweet. And then we also have a pre-training evaluation. So this is like a quiz with a sense of true and false statements. I've already placed it on the tables. So this is how it's like. So have you all received the same assessment?
Yes. Pre-training, huh?
Yes, pre-training assessment.
Yeah.
So you just fill up your details and you select the answer true or false. The score I will fill up. Okay, so all you don't have to do. Okay. And then we start getting down into the training. So at 9:30 to 9:45, we start with the introduction to the course objectives and the learning outcomes. The learning outcomes are already covered, but we'll dive into it deeper through the course objectives. Then, from 9:45 to 10:30, we start with Module 1, an introduction to the EMS. And then we'll have a morning tea break for 15 minutes. And then, after 15 minutes, at 10:45 to 11:30, we'll have Module 2, which is Clause 4 and 5, context of organization and leadership perspective. Right? And for 11:30 to 12:45, Module 3, that is Clause 6, planning. And then for 1 hour after that, we will have our lunch. And for the Muslim people, you can have the solat as well. And once everyone has settled down in your filled bellies and your prayers done, we can proceed on to Clause 7, resources, from 1:45 to 2:15. And then we'll proceed on with operational control at 2:15 to 3:30. And that's our name labels Module 5. And then after that, a tea break. Okay. And also we'll proceed to Clause 9, monitoring, and Clause 10, continual improvement, from 3:45 to 4:30. Okay. That is labeled as Module 6. And then we'll host a huge Q&A session. So if you have any questions, you can ask them. But that doesn't mean you should keep your questions up with that also. If you have any questions along the way also, you can ask. And lastly, you will have another quiz like this, but this time it's a post-training evaluation. And you will also have a course evaluation, where now you evaluate me. Okay? Alright. So just to highlight to you guys, the pre-training evaluation is to see how much you know so far about the EMS before you learn about this training. Perhaps you heard about it somewhere, you have a friend who taught you about this. Okay? The post will once again test your information knowledge on this particular subject after going through the training. Okay? So any questions on the schedule?
We are good.
Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, the methodology is mostly of lectures, and the PowerPoint presentation will have that, and there'll be some quizzes in between as well, including the post and pre-training evaluation. Okay. Now, the course objectives. At the end of this course, you will have a basic understanding of the principles and benefits of the EMS. And also you will understand what are the requirements of the EMS, or known as the ISO 14001 standard. And among those requirements and principles and benefit, you'll be able to identify and evaluate your environmental aspects and impacts. And also, you will develop and implement your environmental objectives and targets. And you will also be able to establish an environmental management program to track those objectives and targets. And then you'll also learn how to assess the system that you have built and implemented through your internal audits and management reviews. And also, you will repeat that process over and over again in terms of continual improvement. Alright? So once again, we have the training outline. Anybody have any questions on this? Okay? Okay. So now it's time for you to tell me who you are. So if you can, please let me know your name, your job role, and the organization you are. If you don't want to mention the name of the company also, it's fine. You can just tell me what's the scope of your organization. So we'll start with this fine young gentleman here.
Okay.
So
My name is Kumar.
okay.
In my job role, I'm a production manager.
Okay.
My organization, I'm from Delhi.
Okay. So we have production manager, Mr. Kumar. Okay, next.
Hi, my name is Vimala.
Okay.
Medicine. You can address me as Vimala.
Right.
I'm the QHSC manager. So I am from the Central Asia Sundram.
Let's see. I just want to make sure the water is clean because I thought I saw some dirt inside. Okay, so Miss Mala has a nice clean drinking water and she's has introduced herself. So next.
Hi, my name is Sanjay. I'm a plantation manager. I work in various plantations. Now I'm doing freelancing consultation for plantations, whether it's a rubber or oil palm and so forth.
So how is that work so far? I believe it's
Okay,
dangerous,
it's
right?
more freelance, more free and easy now. So moving into slow retirement. This year I joined the senior citizen group.
Yes, but you look young, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
So how is the job scope? Is it dangerous?
Well, depends on the country.
I see. So sometimes plantations you have those.
You got friendly creepy crawlies.
Friendly critic crawlies. Okay, that's one way to put it. Okay. So okay, nice to meet you all, Ms. Vimala, Mr. Salvi, and Mr. Kumar. So one thing related to this is also that just like how you introduced to me your names, you also have to introduce yourselves indirectly to the person assessing me. So you will have to fill up the attendance register, as you can see here. But feel free to fill it up at your own time. Okay, I'll pass this around the one. Okay. Now, icebreaker time. Now, can you tell me any one animal that is extinct, officially extinct in this world? So, Mr. Sarvi.
Extinct already.
Yeah, that doesn't exist. The last species is dead. So,
No idea actually.
no idea. Okay. How about you, Ms.
Well,
Vimala?
extinct animals are.
Is it the
It's okay.
dinosaurs?
Okay, yes, dinosaurs is one.
Yeah.
But how about give me another one that's not related to the prehistoric ages?
Prehistoric, okay, let me see if anything that is not extinct. It's not extinct, but it's going to be extinct. Can it be like going to?
Okay, going to endangered cat.
Okay, endangered, one is the sharks. Sharks.
Sharks. Okay,
So-
is there a specific type of sharks? Sorry.
I think it's the white shark. White shark where everyone cuts its fin off for the shark fin soup. So not to support this extinction, I've stopped eating shark for many years.
I never understand the concept behind shark fin soup. But okay. How about Mr. Kumar? Do you have any extinct or endangered species?
Tiger.
Sorry?
Tiger.
Tiger.
Tiger, okay. What kind of tiger?
The Malay tiger.
Okay. So is that endangered or extinct?
Yeah, endangered. It's going to be extinct.
Okay, going frequently, so it's endangered lah. Okay, so the Malayan tiger. Okay, so these are considered endangered now, and you guys are right. As for the extinct, I know a few.
Right?
There's the dodo bird.
Oh, the dodo bird, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, it's extinct already.
Yes, it's already extinct.
So this
The
one-
wonderful bird that has a round nose is officially extinct. And of course, there's the dinosaurs. And there's also something called a sea cow. I'm not sure the
Sea
cow.
cow?
Yes, I'm not sure the cow is living in the sea or they named that because of its physical features, but it's okay. So, like those animals, there are almost a lot, there's almost millions of species that have gone extinct. Okay? And not just the animals, plants as well. Okay? So why do they have gone extinct? If one would ask. Well, isn't it? Well, it's because of us. Not literally us, because of humans and our activities. And it's okay if we have activities that tend to threaten human life as long as we regulate it and make sure it does not harm it. But if we do not even regulate our activities, we do not monitor, and we don't implement the control measures to control our activities that could potentially harm the environment and the animals and the plants, then of course we'll have many extinct species and endangered species as well. Right?
Yes.
So now can you get the gist of why we need to have the EMS?
Yeah. More of boss requirement to have the EMS in place. Also customer wants EMS in place.
Yes, and also the animals and plants want
Need
to
to
keep
be
them safe
protected.
also. Actually that should be the priority, but it's okay. As long as it's in the list. Okay, so these are currently, as per the World Wildlife Fund source, this is the data on the climate change risk at 2 degrees Celsius of global warming. So, at least once every 20 years, 2 billion people will be exposed to extreme heat. Now, I do not know if I experienced extreme heat at my university, but if it was basic heat, then it was really terrible. So imagine if that heat times 10 times 20. Okay? So we could experience that once every 20 years.
Actually, this year, Mr. Lim, in Brazil,
Yes.
somewhere in March, the world has recorded 65 degrees in March for the first time. A friend of mine who travels quite frequently, she told me, she's from a Japanese company, she told me the first time we recorded 65 degrees
See.
in Brazil. Yeah. That's alarming. Huh?
So I hope your friend is alright.
She is fine.
She's fine.
She is fine.
Alright? So not only for the people, but also the species, 18% insects, 16% plants, and 8% vertebrates, okay, will be affected by this climate change as well. So water availability, 410 million urban residents would be exposed to severe drought by the year 2100. Extreme weather, 170% increase in flood risk. Not 70%, not 100, 100 plus 70, 170% increase in flood risk. So as you can see, just a 2 degrees Celsius global warming increase, we already have all these effects. And not just that, that's just the first slide. Second slide, you see that's even worse. Sea level rise, 49 million people will be impacted by sea level rise of 56 centimeters by also the year 2100. And there will also be higher risk to the marine biodiversity in oceans, seas, and the ecosystems and the ecological functions too will be affected. And Arctic sea ice, of course, will be melting because of the global warming, right? So ice-free summers in the Arctic at least once every 10 years. Okay? And then there's also the coral bleaching, where virtually all coral reefs are lost by the year 2100. So you can say year 2100 is not going to be really be a good year for our fellow animals and plants as well as us if we do not take care of the activities that are affecting them. Okay, so what is the definition of an environment? One definition you can say that the total of all the living and non-living elements and their effects that influence human life. Okay, not just the living but also the non-living. Okay, so usually the non-living animals can cause much more harm to the environment than the living one. But at the same time, of course, the living is us, right? So we also operate the non-living. So in a way,
the human.
yeah. So that's why we say it's the total. All of us have a part to play in the protection, preservation, and conservation of the environment. So sometimes, so if we do not control activities, it could lead to all of these global environmental issues. So deforestation, all the trees you chop down and you make all the paper, okay, and you do not replant the trees. Contamination of drinking water. That's why I thought I saw a environmental hazard there just now. It makes me want water bottle. But then I reassure myself it's okay. But may not be water bottles, but any wells or rivers that could be a drinking source for people in rural areas, the water can be contaminated. And of course, loss of species, flora and fauna. As I mentioned earlier, the dodo bird, as Mr. Kumar mentioned, the Malayan tiger and the white shark, they too could be affected. Hazardous waste, okay? What kind of waste? General waste and scheduled waste. Okay, what are scheduled waste? As we go through that, we'll cover that. Ozone layer depletion. So usually this leads to the global warming. When the ozone layer starts to deplete, the heat has greater access coming in through our planet, affecting us. Acid rain. When I was a child, I thought acid rain literally meant acid rain. But no, it's not corrosive acid rain, but it does affect us, not just us, but our buildings and infrastructures and also the environment as well. And marine pollution is also another way to say water pollution. Okay, our seas will have all those oil spills, all the plastic, So yeah, it affects the marine life there. And then, all in all, it will lead to the global warming, or also known as the greenhouse effect. And our planet Earth would virtually be our young fellow here. Badly affected, badly damaged, and he still can muster a smile for us. But as you can see, our planet Earth could be something like this too. Not literally like the cartoon, but in a way, it can be affected. So, with that being said, what are the benefits of the EMS? The ISO 14001:2015. Well, you can demonstrate your compliance with the current and future statutory and regulatory requirements for your environment, in terms of environment. You increase your leadership involvement and engagement of your employees. Okay, your employees will learn more about the environment preservation and they will do more, as well as the managers and supervisors as well. And then, once you take care of the environment, of course your company is going to get a greater reputation, its greater image. And you have the confidence of the stakeholders through strategic communication. So they will know that when you do your activities, your business operations, you care about the environment. And then through that, you can achieve strategic business aims by incorporating environmental issues into your business management. So as Ms. Mala mentioned, since her organization requires her to learn about the EMS, so this would help her to assist in achieving the strategic business aims. So you also provide a competitive and financial advantage through your improved efficiencies and reduced costs. And all in all, you also can encourage better environmental performance for not only your workers and your management, but also for your external parties like suppliers, and by integrating them also into your business system. right? But in overall, it helps you take care of the environment. So, now we'll just do a deep dive into the ISO management system, new high-level system structure, right? Or, sorry, high-level structure. What are the core elements and requirements here? So, as you can see here, we already have our generic standards. Environment management is here. And I believe you all are familiar with the quality management system, ISO 9001. And I also, you would have heard of the food safety management system as well. Okay. So these are all considered generic standards. Alongside that, you also have the OSH management system. And then you also have your generic requirements. For a management system, one of the generic requirements is a risk management. Whichever management system it is, you perform the risk analysis and the risk handling and the control measures. And then you also cover what standards are in relation to your specific sector, like oil and gas, medical, food safety, or consultancy, auditing. And you also have support from your guidelines, clarifying notes, through the internal audits, to your management reviews. Okay. So all in all, the contribution of all of this information and requirements will lead to a building up of the high level structure with your core elements and requirements. Okay. So all of these need to be considered if you want to build up a good high level structure for your management system. Okay. Any questions so far?
Okay.
Alright. So, whichever management system you deal with, this will be the basic layout for what you need to do. That is the PDCA cycle, plan, do, check, act. Now for your information, all the three ISOs, ISO 9001, 14001 and 45001, their clauses are almost similar. Main clauses, they are similar, but sub-clauses will be almost similar. Okay? So as you go through those three trainings, you will understand that part, right? So, for EMS, this will be our version of the EMS, for the EMS, this will be its version of the PDCA. You will have your context of the organization, clause 4, which covers understanding the organization and its context. You will also cover the needs and expectations of interested parties, like your stakeholders. You also cover the scope that you have to set up for your EMS, and also the planning of that EMS itself, with reference to the scope. Leadership covers more to your leadership and commitment. We'll also talk about the policy, the environmental policy that you're going to set it up, and also the respective roles, responsibilities, and authorities required for that policy to be fulfilled and for the EMS to be implemented well. Then we proceed on to planning, clause 6, which covers the actions to address the risks and opportunities. As I mentioned earlier, risk assessment is one of the generic requirements of a high-level structure. So it will discuss the actions to perform as such, and also your objectives and planning. Once you have your policy, how you prepare the objectives from that. Okay, and then also we have our support and operation, clauses 7 and 8 respectively. While clause 7 talks about your resources, competence, awareness, communication, and documented information, the operational will talk about the operational planning and control, as well as the emergency preparedness and response. And then once you set up that system in terms of those clauses, you will have your clause 9, performance evaluation, where you monitor, measure, analyze, and evaluate your EMS, and that will also include your internal audit and management review. Last but not least, your improvement. Okay, clause 10, which covers the general information on improvement, as well as continual improvement in the other clause 10.2. Actually, I believe 10.2 will talk about non-conformance and criteria, but we'll get to that as we go through the slides. So as you can see here, this is how the EMS would be like if you put it this way. So we'll go through each clause and subclause. Okay. So as you can see, your requirements are all kind of close to the ISO 9001 in terms of the context of the organization, your goals and planning, because of quality also. So QMS also talks about our policy and objective planning, your documented information, performance, evaluation, and improvement. So it's more or less the same, but the meaning is different. The overall meaning, to be more exact. So this is your structure of the ISO 14001 2015. Now, with that being said, let us proceed on to Module 1, Introduction to the EMS. Now, the EMS has its standard already, and the standard itself is ISO 14001 2015. It covers 10 clauses. The first 3 clauses are usually referred to as the introductory clauses. Okay? It talks about the scope, the normative references, and the terms and definitions. And as the rest of the 7 clauses, these are the rest of the 7 clauses. These are more to the content. So Module 1 will be talking about the introductory clauses. The first one being scope. Okay? The scope is applicable to any organization. Okay? This EMS will be applicable to any organization. So what is the intended outcomes of the EMS? As we covered earlier, enhance the environmental performance, fulfill the compliance, and achieve the objectives. Okay? But this is just a sneak peek. Before we proceed to these, let's touch up on, or let's complete the pre-training assessment. Okay? So I'll give you 15 minutes. Please select the answer true or false for the following questions. Okay? So yeah, don't worry, there are no wrong answers or right answers. I just want to see how much you understand so far. Okay? And while you're doing, and once you're done with the pre-assessment, you can also fill up the attendance register as well. Okay? So you can just pass it around. So you can just, if you have any questions on not understanding this pre-training evaluation, please do let me know. I'll guide you through that. Okay? And please feel free to help yourself to the sweets. I see we have cool mint here also.
2 kinds, huh?
Yeah, there's 2 types.
There's cool mint and I believe there's also Toblerone. Please feel free to have them. Mr. Lee. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Lim, I've done so.
Okay. If you have filled up the tenant sheet, you pass it on to the next person.
Mr. Submit.
Don't exactly have to submit in 15 minutes sharp, you can submit earlier also. Okay. So don't worry. Which one is the one? Okay, the tenant sheet is also good. Wonderful. Right, so after this, we'll go through the post-evaluation at the end. And also as well as the pre-evaluation results, okay? Alright, so before I proceed on to section module 1, any questions on the previous slides? The objectives? No?
They're good, I'm good.
Yeah, okay.
Alright. Okay, so now, no more sneak peek, now we get down to scope 1 for you. Okay, so the EMS is applicable to any organization, okay? And its intended outcomes are to enhance the environmental performance of your organization, okay? As well as fulfilling the compliance that is required by your organization and to achieve the objectives that your organization sets, okay? So it does not state specific environmental performance criteria. So it's up to your organization here. Okay? What you have to perform. Right? So clause 2 covers normative references. Now although there is nothing on that particular clause, due to the numbering consistency between the standards, it is included nevertheless. But for information, there are no normative references. Okay?
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
can you explain what is normative reference?
Okay. Normative references. It consists of what types of international standards, ISO publications, guides, or international workshop agreements that are connected to the EMS. Okay? So the EMS is only one standard, it's by itself, the ISO 14001, 2015. So there's no other normative reference that linked to that. Okay? Did I answer your question, Kumar?
Yeah.
Alright. Now then we have clause 3, terms and definitions. Now this part literally specifies certain terms that you will come across your EMS, environmental management system. Okay, such as aspects, impacts, and the like. So these terms you will come across frequently. So they pick these terms and they define them respectively. There will be terms related to organization and leadership, related to planning, support, operation, performance evaluation, and improvement. So from basically from clause 4 to clause 10. Okay. So whichever terms that you will come across frequently, they will define them there in clause 2. Okay. What are those terms? You can go through the standard for your own reading time. You can see that. Okay, we can also go through some of them over here. Like I mentioned earlier, environmental aspect. Definition is, it is an element of an organization's activity, process, and service or services that interacts or can interact with the environment. Okay, so a business activity, a business product, or a business service, if it has the possibility of interacting with the environment and causing an effect, then it's an aspect worth investigating.
Example, Mr. Lim, what kind of aspects will I have in a metal company?
Okay, so metal company, what kind of aspects you have? Okay, let's put in some detail. Let's say this is a company that produces metal rods
Alright,
or metal poles, for example.
alright,
So basically, you have to shape out that pole, right?
yeah,
You have to shave off excess metal material to
Correct.
form the perfect pole shape,
Yeah.
the cylinder. So when that excess material forms up, it's considered metal waste, right?
yes.
Okay. So when that metal waste is not handled properly, it could lead to its affecting the environment in terms of land pollution.
You mean if it's not disposed properly,
Yes,
right?
if it's not disposed properly, it can either lead to a pollution. And before that, if it's not planned properly, the design and development of these metal poles, it will also lead to excessive shaving or trimming of the metal part, leading to depletion of its resource. Okay.
Okay.
So even for metal company, even though metal is a non-living thing, it can still affect the environment because, as per the definition earlier, non-living things too play a role in keeping the environment safe.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. So, with respect to the aspect, your environmental impact would be the change to the environment that is either adverse or beneficial, wholly or partially, resulting from that particular environment aspect. Okay? So as I mentioned earlier, if your environment aspect is excessive metal waste, then what impact would be the soil pollution. Right? So for each activity in each company, in each organization, there's always the aspects and there's always the impacts. Environmental performance is defined as the performance related to the management of certain environmental aspects, such as your air emission. Okay? Sometimes sometimes the smoke from your factory's chimneys, the emission from your chemicals, that could lead to air pollution. Energy usage, your factory lights on 24 hours, even nobody in the company also, lights aircon all on, excessive electrical usage. Okay? Waste generation, metal waste, plastic waste, food waste. Okay? How do you manage them? How do you ensure that they do not become excessive?
Like the energy use for the plantation and vision, they don't have electricity. What they do is they're using generator.
Okay.
So that one also need to consider, is it? Or
Yes, also need to consider because your generators you use diesel, I believe. Okay. So you also need to see that. And also packaging materials. Your product will require packaging, then yes, that you also need to think about. There are also many other environmental aspects that requires a performance, a good performance of that. Life cycle, okay, this is a good word here, good term here. A consecutive and interlinked stages of a product or service system from raw materials acquisition or generation from natural resources to its final disposal. So what is the life cycle of the product is basically from the start that you collect the raw materials and natural resources and the parts and the tools to build that product up to that part where you finally dispose that product after use. To the final disposal of the waste resulting from the product's formation. So the entire life cycle entire life cycle analysis will be covered in the EMS as well. Okay, so this term is really important as this will give you an overview of where you need to control in your in your product or service or activity. Right, so those are the few terms.
Sorry, Mr. Lee, I have a question. Is life cycle analysis a compulsory compulsory thing to do when we are setting up the management system?
Yes, it is compulsory. You need to know, since you're all managers, you would know about the process your product or service goes through, or your business activity goes through. But why you perform a life cycle analysis, because you also go through go through the start and end of your process, but you also see where is the environmental performance in that case. Let's say the metal company, the metal pipes. This time you have something called metal punching. You have to punch a series of holes in your pipes. So if you punch 10 holes, you will have 10 circular shaped metal waste.
Yeah.
So that is considered something to be included in your life cycle analysis. For one hole, 10 circular metal waste items are produced. So for 5 metal holes, how many? For 10, how many? For hundreds, thousands. And if this happens in more than one company, how much? So you need to consider that in your life cycle analysis. The whole point of a life cycle analysis is to analyze what is the environmental performance that's being conducted in your process. What is going on in terms of environment in your
in another word, you are saying from cradle to grave, is it?
Yes, from cradle to grave. That's a really good way to think. Yes, from cradle to grave, from start to end. Okay, so it is compulsory. So any other questions on module 1? Okay, now we get to the content. Module 2 will be actually talking about the content here. So, Miss Vimala,
Yes.
Module 2, how many clauses are there? Sorry, the introductory clauses are 3, but how many clauses there are in the content?
You mentioned earlier on there is 4, clause 4, clause 5, clause 6, clause 7, clause 8, clause 9 and clause 10, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So altogether we have
7, is it?
Yes, 7 clauses.
7.
Okay, so those 7 clauses are the content. So, but before we proceed any further, I believe that we have a debate on this.
Later, I think in 10 minutes time.
Okay.
Yeah. Be okay with 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we shall proceed then, okay? So yes, as Ms. Mula mentioned, clause 4, context of the organization. So what is the context of the organization all about? When you set up an EMS, you first have to set up your context. You need to have a starting point. That starting point is this, your internal and external issues. What are the issues internally and externally that can relate to the environment? Okay, you will have to monitor and you have to review that information as well. Okay, so usually for this information, you have an internal and external issues register. I believe you have one for quality, right?
Yeah, we have for quality.
Okay, so,
My company, we have one for quality.
okay, so then you just apply that same concept to environment as well, and you highlight the issues in that for environment. So what issues? It shall include environmental conditions being affected by or capable of affecting the organization. So not only the organization can affect the environment through its activities, the organization can also be affected through its activities. So as I mentioned earlier, the life cycle, that is also another reason why. For your own benefit as well as the environment's benefit. Okay? So that would be 4.1, context of the organization. Okay? Now, once you set up your
Can you
internal,
go back, Mr. Lim, can you go back to the previous slide?
yes?
Can you give me an example of internal and external issues?
Okay. So an example of an internal and external issue, we'll go use our better company. Anyone want to volunteer give me the example name first, since we're going to use this for the rest of our EMS?
Yeah, you mean the company name?
Just give an example.
My company name is Sandra.
And also, but how about Mr. Kumar? You suggest one name also.
Sonic,
Sonic, okay. Sonic Industries, lah. I will not use organization this time, okay?
Alright,
I hope you're not offended.
that's fine.
Because we don't want to use real time names here, lah, because of confidentiality here. Okay, so Sonic Industries. Let's say Sonic Industries wants to do their external and internal issues register. So internal issues covers internally in the organization. So one example is the waste management of your metal waste. That's an issue. Maybe it could be inefficient. Maybe the disposal contractors aren't disposing it correctly. Maybe the people who are supposed to dispose them for the disposal contractors, they're not doing the job properly. Maybe there are no records. So which is it? So that's an internal issue there. As for external, it relates to your exterior of an organization, your suppliers, contractors, clients. So sometimes your clients tend to want to ignore the requirements of the EMS to get the job done faster. Okay? One such company that my friend has consulted at, he experienced this kind of issue. The client wants to ignore the EMS because they want to get the job done sooner. Okay? Or they don't want to involve too much hassle or documentation. So clients often perform that kind of issue. That is an issue worth investigating. That issue is an external issue. So for Sonic Industries, that too can happen. So Mr. Kumar, have I answered? Is it already the answer?
yeah, okay.
Okay, good. So yeah, that's it. That's the internal and external issues there where we need to plan. Now 4.2. After we determine our external and internal issues, we proceed on to our interested parties. Okay? What are the interested parties towards the EMS and what are their needs and expectations? For QMS and for OSH, different sections. But for EMS, you also have to consider. Okay? Which of these needs and expectations becomes a compliance obligation? Okay? Sometimes they would want the environment to be well protected. Sometimes they want the waste management to be top tier. Okay? These parts tend to be compliance obligations. So, as an absolute minimum, all relevant legal requirements must be included. And voluntary arrangements become obligations when agreed and adopted. So as soon as they are agreed and as soon as they are beginning to be adopted, you have to start complying. They become your legal requirements. On the EMS, the terminology says compliance obligations. Okay? So we'll follow this terminology to address legal and other requirements. Okay, then your scope of the EMS. Now, every organization has its own business scope. And likewise, you also have a scope for environmental management system. And this scope will clarify your physical and organizational boundaries. It will clarify what the environmental management system is all about in your organization. Just one sentence, it can define what is your EMS all about. Okay? So it's either whole of the organization, if the organization is based on one company, or if it's more than one company, it can be part of an organization as well. And other parts of the organization can have their own respective scopes. So it cannot be used to exclude significant environmental aspects, or it cannot also be used to evade compliance obligations. So at those parts you still need to follow. So as you can see here, significant environmental aspects, what's that about? You will have your environmental aspects listed down, but there will be certain aspects will be absolutely important that you have to settle, you have to follow up with. Critical aspects. So those critical aspects are known as significant environmental aspects, or C for short. SEA also you can say. Your scope must not be misleading. It has to be direct, it has to be clear, it has to show the meaning you are intending to show for your organization. So it must not be misleading. Okay? And
Sterling, is scope the activities that the company carries out? That
Yes.
scope means the activities that we carry out in our company?
yes.
Thank you.
Welcome. And then you have to document the scope and also be made available to interested parties. So if they ask for the scope of your EMS, you have to provide them. Okay. Now, once you have determined your scope, once you have determined the needs and expectations and your external internal issues, you proceed on with establishing, implementing, maintaining, and continually improving your management system. Okay? So, you ensure your processes are controlled, carried out as planned, and achieve desired results. So, you control your process first. You ensure your processes have the proper procedures, work instructions, they have a plan, they have the aspect impact analyzed. Then you carry out as per the plan to achieve your desired results. Okay? Then, once you see that it's going well, you can integrate it slowly into your business processes. Okay? So if you have an HR department, you can integrate the EMS into that. Your design and development, that's a critical part, because that's where they plan your product, right? You can integrate your EMS into that. Your sales and marketing, because they will have to communicate with customers. Okay? Communicating with customers, they'll have to describe to them the EMS requirements, right? As I mentioned earlier also, right? That sometimes customers tend to ignore the EMS. So sales and marketing will have to ensure that the customers adhere to the EMS requirements as well for your company. Then procurement, production, or any other departments involved, engineering as well, or any other departments in your organization. You integrate your EMS into them. You consider the knowledge also gained from your external internal issues as well as your needs and expectations in the creation of your EMS. Let's say your EMS, let's say you determine the needs and expectation. Oh, for suppliers, I want to ensure that they adhere to the environmental rules and regulations. But when you determine your EMS, you do not make a procedure on that. You do not prepare any rules and regulations for them to follow. So basically that's already a mistake, a discrepancy. So you have to consider that knowledge as well.
One question,
Yes?
whether environment can be considered to be included in the design stage?
Sorry?
Whether environment consideration need to be included in the design stage?
Environment conservation.
Yeah.
Consideration.
Considerations included in design.
Need to be included or not, the design stage?
Okay, so to recap on your question, you're asking me if environmental conditions must be included into the design stage.
Or whether it should be included or not?
Okay,
At
yes.
design stage, whether the environmental consideration during the design stage of a product,
I see.
should we consider that? Should we include that?
Yes. Yes, you have to include. Because the design and development is planning of the product, right?
Yes.
You plan out how the product is to be made, you consult with the customer and all that. So if you include the environmental considerations to that also, you can prevent any issues in the future, right? As you design the product. Okay. So for design and development, they will have those environmental regulations. And for that also, you will have to determine when you're building your environmental management system. Okay? So, Mr. Kumar,
Yeah.
you good? Alright. Okay, so with that, we can say clause 4 is set up. Alright? So, any questions? Okay. So, with that, we proceed on to clause 5, which is leadership. Now, this covers more to the organization's employees. So, leadership and commitment. You can build a good EMS, but it won't matter much if there's no leader for that system. Okay? For every team, there's a team leader. For every class in school, there's a monitor. So for every EMS, you need a leader. And that leader can be your top management. Okay? Your leadership and commitment must be there to ensure the success of the system. Right? So that can be your top management. So Mr. Kumar, can you tell me who your top management is, the position?
CEO of the company.
So I see. So if Mr. Kumar's the top management, the CEO, then the CEO is the one who will be taking charge for the EMS. Okay? He will be the leader for the EMS. So to define that top management is defined as a person or group of people who directs and controls an organization at the highest level. So if you're already directing the organization, you can also direct the EMS as well. Which is why their involvement is necessary. So for those in leadership roles to promote environmental management within the organization, if the leader knows about the EMS and is determined to follow up the EMS and implement it, then he can guide others to do the same. Because we always follow the leader, right? So the leader must be sure on the EMS. Then only others will follow. You need to have someone to look up to when it comes to implementation, right? So there's a new clause that has been added that assigns specific responsibilities to the leadership itself, to the top management. Okay? So if you go through the standard, you can refer to that. Right. Okay? So how do you demonstrate the leadership and commitment? You can take accountability and effectiveness for the effectiveness of the EMS. If your leaders say that I am solely responsible to ensure the EMS is at its top tier level, that it works efficiently, then of course you could say, if the leader itself taking charge, of course I can follow behind him with honor, with respect, right? If your leader is good, then you all will be good too. And if you all are good as managers, supervisors, the workers too would follow, right? So that's why your top management has to take charge of the EMS. So he also has to ensure that the environmental objectives and policy are adhered to, that is established and is compatible with the strategic direction of the organization. Jangan buat satu policy untuk company lain dan cakap itu policy saya guna. Okay. Make the policy that fits the strategic direction of the organization. Right? And then you also ensure the integration of the EMS requirements into business processes. So while we do the work, the leadership, that is the top management, must ensure that we are doing well. Okay? If he says that everything must be good, then of course, then we'll do well, right? Because the leadership is the one taking accountability, is leading the EMS management. So, at the same time, also need to ensure the resources are needed for the EMS to be available. Mr. Sarvik, as the manager, he asked, I am ready to perform my EMS, but I need a SEPS form. What is a SEPS form? Later I will explain. I need a SEPS form. You tell your top management. He said, it's okay lah, no need lah. You just let that part go. He didn't provide the resource in terms of manpower. Oh, Mr. Sonic Industries, they want to have a proper planning for their product. So they want to employ a design and development HOD. They want to have a QA to check the defect products, but they don't want, but the top management doesn't want to provide because you have to employ them, you have to go through the
Cost saving,
process. They don't want to go through the hassle sometimes. So if they do not provide the resources, then we can't be able to perform the EMS either. So they also have to provide the resources, okay? Not just in manpower, but in machine, in method as well, and other aspects. Communicating the importance of effective environmental management and conforming to the EMS requirements, okay? You have to conform to the compliance obligations of the EMS. And also you have to communicate the importance to the environmental management, effective environmental management, okay? And also ensure that the EMS achieves its intended outcomes, okay? That is defined in the policy, in your objectives, in your scope. Does it achieve that or not, the EMS? And also you have directing and supporting persons, leading those people. You direct them and you support them. You tell them, you guide them to complete the EMS, to manage the EMS effectively. Okay? You also promote continual improvement. Jangan berhenti satu kali saja. Kali kedua, ketiga, keempat, carry on the continual improvement. Okay? Improve saja. There's always room for improvement in any management system because no system will ever be perfect. Okay? There will always be room for improvement. That's why the term continual improvement is there. And then you support. And then the top management also should support other relevant management roles to demonstrate that leadership as it applies to that area of responsibility. So, for Mr. Sabit, his top management should support him in resources and such to manage the waste of his product or service. Mr. Kumar, if he's producing any product, he needs extra manpower, the top management for him should support as well. Right? So with that being said, that is what the top management should be all about. To demonstrate leadership and commitment with respect through these qualities. Okay. Any questions on this part?
No, that's clear.
No.
Can the leadership be someone next to the CEO? Let's say the CEO is based in overseas, and can he like appoint a general manager to actually assume the role of top management in the organization?
Yeah.
Yeah?
At times, the CEO won't be available, and you have some important decisions to make in terms of the EMS or your business process. So if a general manager is there, it's better. The CEO is not available, the GM can handle things. So by that way, the EMS runs smoothly, even without the presence of certain members of the top management. As long as that person holds a senior position that can make decisions to affect the organization, they can be considered as your top manager. So your CEO, your general manager, your MD, or if you have any factory directors or technical directors whatsoever, they can support. So your environmental policy now here, okay? So as you can see here, this is how your environmental policy should be, more or less, okay? So it's basically talking about how you are going to adhere to your EMS requirements, how you're going to manage the system. That's what the content is all about. So it can be appropriate to the purpose of context of your product or service, your nature, your scale, your environmental impact of your activities, products or services. Okay? It has to fit that particular activity. If let's say Sonic Industries has two companies, one that makes metal poles and another one that makes metal sheets. You cannot make a policy that goes for both industries. Let's say I make metal, plastic, metal poles and sheets. No. For the metal poles, you need to have a policy. For the metal sheets, you have to make a separate policy because they are both different processes, different main processes. So you have to customize the policy to that.
Can it be a corporate policy whereby both organizations can use? A general corporate policy with the commitments on, like you say, protect the environment, including preventing pollution. There is also some statements on compliance obligation and also some continual improvement statement. Can it be one single policy for two organizations and we call it as a corporate policy? It's like a group policy.
A group policy. That's a good question. In certain cases, you can provide a corporate policy for that. But you have to ensure that the business process applies to all of the organization. Okay. Alright. So it provides a framework for setting environmental objectives. From the environmental policy only, you can set your objectives. Okay. That's why the policy comes first, then the objectives comes next. Okay. 3 basic commitments. You protect the environment, including preventing pollution and liquid waste management and all that, but protect the environment as an overall. You fulfill the compliance obligations. Remember, compliance obligations is priority here as well. And also continually improve your environmental management system. Okay? It's also, and then once you prepare the policy, you document it. You document it and you communicate to the respective interested parties. Right? So your suppliers need to know the environmental policy. Your clients, if they request it, you have to show them. Okay, but that is for you to plan it out, your communication, which we will discuss in clause 7. So proceed on. So then, alongside that, you also determine your roles, your responsibilities, and your authorities for the relevant environmental management system functions. Okay? So it's assigned and communicated within the organization. As I mentioned earlier, you need a SAP swarm to handle your scheduled waste. So you need to appoint a person for that. If you don't have a representative to handle the EMS, then you have to appoint a management representative. Or you could promote someone from the organization. If you need an ISO task force for your environmental management system, then you have to set that up as well. You have to pick the specific people with the specific competencies and experience to fulfill those roles. So, 2 key roles that I can mention here for your EMS. You ensure the EMS conforms to the ISO 14001:2015 requirements. Okay, your management system must conform to the standards. Okay, and also reporting on performance of that EMS and environmental performance to top management. As I mentioned earlier, your leadership is the top management, so you have to report to them how the EMS is going. Only then they can make their respective decisions onwards. So those are the key roles. So if you do want to hire a management representative, there is no formal requirements. Okay. But as for the rest of the roles, you see how it is. For EMS, you also have other organizations, other roles as well. So which is necessary for your organization. Okay. So any questions for module 2? Sorry. For leadership, clause 5?
Not at the moment.
If you have a question but you can't formulate it right now, it's okay. We have a Q&A session at the end. You can say it then also. Okay? So there are no questions. Let's
So
proceed.
earlier you mentioned about if CEO tak ada, then GM can represent. It's good to know lah, because we do see sometimes management, when we go into our works inspection also, sometimes you can't see the CEO present at that time, and then when we are working on the implementation also, so it's good to know lah, the GM can do the top management part, right?
Because there are also certain times where you have a management review meeting, I believe. So there are times when the CEO can't attend the management review as well, right? So that is for the EMS or for the OSH or for the QMS also. That sometimes can conflict as well. So that's why it's recommended. That's why you can have one or more senior roles. So in case the CEO cannot attend, another person in the senior role can take over and can lead the organization in his state, right? So like as you said earlier, the GM. Or there's another position that's labeled in the organization for that particular senior position, you can appoint a person for that. That's part of the resources. Okay?
Then earlier you mentioned about the policy and objective. So maybe you can explain a little bit more on the objective part. Maybe you go back to the slide.
Sorry, this one. Provides a framework for setting environmental objectives. Okay, so this part we can cover in clause 6 actually.
Oh, okay, it's coming later.
Yeah. But just to give you a brief intro on that, you set up your policy, and from there you can create your objectives, which one do you want to complete or accomplish for your organization. So let's say your policy says, I want to ensure that I can prevent pollution. So if your company is performing an activity or activities or any product or service that contributes to the pollution, you can say, one of my objectives is I want to regulate all the activities to ensure that the pollution is reduced and mitigated. You can say that. And then for that objective, you can set a KPI and a plan and actual date and your PSE. But we'll get to that as we go to the objectives. But that's the gist of it so far. Any other questions?
EMS is what? Environmental management system.
Environmental management system. You okay with that terminology?
Yeah.
Alright. So, before we proceed on, we would like to take a 5 minutes break.
Yes.
Move around, shake your legs.
We will have stop for tea break, Mr. Lim.
Yes, tea break.
And then we can continue. Our morning break is ready, so you can join us for our tea break.
Sure, we can go together.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'll just leave this slide here.